You know, there's always a delay. When you go live, there's this delay and you're talking and you don't really know if everybody is there or not. And now I'm getting confirmation that the video signal is going. Welcome to the Fix This Next Real Estate Investors, well, launch party. It's its birthday. Look, I bet you didn't know that books can have birthdays, and they can. And well, today is the day. Today is the birthday, and I'm so glad that you guys are here celebrating this day with me, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to have this here so that as I go through this book tonight, that it's kind of a living, breathing addition back to the book that, well, I got started writing this thing 18 months ago. So I want to make sure that some things may have changed in terms of the stories that I tell, or some things have evolved, but tonight is a behind the scenes look at how this book all came together. And trust me, if you could see all the props that I have around me, I have books that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about these books here today. And we're going to talk about these books. And we're going to talk about, well, this book. And you know what else we're going to do? At the end today, or as we get closer to the end, we're going to talk about what's in this box. This magical mystery box that basically looks like it's baking stuff. Some of you that know me might say, hey, is that donuts? It is not donuts, but what's in here will remain a mystery until we get closer to the end of the evening. So I'm glad that you guys are here. And really what I wanted to do during this time period is, look, I blocked off a lot of time. I blocked off 3 hours, and some of you might be thinking, can this guy actually talk for 3 hours? Well, I asked my wife about that, and she's like, yes, you can. And I asked my children, and they were like, yes, you can. And I asked others, and they're like, no problem, no problem. So we're going to see. We're going to see if they're right or what. But I also know that 3 hours is a long time. And I want you to stay as long as you can with me. But I also know that this is going to live on. And so if you have to dart out, I just appreciate you being here today. So if you dart out, no problem. If in the comments, if you just tell me, hey, where you're from, okay, that's cool too. Just say hi, whatever it is. That way it's there, and that's going to help to give me back some energy as well, okay? So glad you guys are here. Settle in, grab a beverage. I got some of my favorites, and I actually have some water tonight too. So we're going to get going. I want to really talk to you about one of the biggest problems that real estate investors face. And this isn't just a real estate investor problem. This is an every business owner problem. And what it comes down to is that as you're running your business, there are so many things that require your priority, or everything seems important. And you've heard for years, like, oh, I got to put out these fires, or, you know, all of these business fires. But when you're starting your business and trying to grow it, that is probably the biggest challenge that we all face. And what's kind of funny in a way is that I think as we look at our businesses and they're growing, that we look at other companies that are ahead of us in age, in revenue, in employees, and all the other stuff. And it's almost like they make it look easy. But I've worked in a Fortune 300 company. I've led from the top of that company. And I can tell you that every company that I've ever been involved with, they all have challenges. They all have problems. And I think that one of the things that makes us as business owners kind of challenging is that what we do is we look at all of these problems and we can see them. We know where our team is weak. We know where our marketing is weak. We know where all of these things are. We carry that burden with us every single day. And what happens is we try to worry about all of them. We try to worry about all of those problems and trying to make them all better. And at the end of the day, we can't do it. You cannot do it. And it's important to remember that every business has problems. I don't care how big they are. They all have problems. So you have to first give yourself a break. You have to first say to yourself, hey, it's okay. It's okay that my business isn't flawless. Nobody else's is either, okay? So once you have that mindset in place, now all of a sudden I hope that kind of brings you some peace in terms of giving yourself a break, right? Nobody has it all figured out. And I think that that's one of the hardest parts of being a business owner is worrying about all of these little things, okay? What happens though is when we start to worry about these issues and we worry about that thing over there and this thing over here, what ends up happening is we end up making decisions that take us away from what the business needs. And it's not just about what the business needs, it's about what we want and need too. Every day that I worked on this book, I was kind of challenged because, as you're writing a book and you're telling stories and you're researching stories and you're thinking about what you want for this book, I would go back and forth to say, well, this is really what I want for the book, or this is what I hope for the book. And sometimes these visions of what I wanted for the book was just enormous. And you look at that and you go, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be that big. And you start to give yourself permission to tone down your goals. I did that with my real estate investing business too. I had this vision of, I want it to be this big. And then when you get into the heat of it and you realize that, okay, that's a big number or that's a big deal, you give yourself permission to pull back on it and maybe settle the goal. Again, that's the same thing that we all experience, whether we all talk about it or not. Every business owner has that same experience. And if that's you and you're pulling back on your goals because you get that little day of self-doubt or whatever, don't do that. Shoot higher. And this is where we introduce something that's covered in the book. It's called the survival trap. And the thing about the survival trap is that what happens is as we're making decisions on a day-to-day basis, because we're kind of in the trees, right? We're in that forest and we can't see the whole thing. We're making decisions for our business to go that way or to solve this problem. But at the end of the day, what's happening is we're solving problems that take us away from what we really want. And it's not just what we really want, it's what our business needs to move forward. So we get ourselves stuck in this trap, okay? We're just kind of going around in a circle and in a circle and in a circle. And then at some point in time, we just feel like we're spinning our wheels, right? Do you guys feel that way? You ever feel that way? Like you look at this business and you think like, hey, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get out of this. If that's you, throw it in the comments. And let's see, I'm looking at some of the comments now. Is this going to be recorded? Yeah, it's going to be recorded right here on YouTube. You can come back and see it and be able to refer back to it. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to live on this channel. So you'll be able to go back and look at that. Yeah, so Good Vibes Farm, how's it going? Said yes, that's how they feel as well. And so when we're in the survival trap, what happens is we continue to make decisions in this hunt to try to get us out of where we're lost. And we're not always making the right decisions because finding our way out is hard, especially if you don't have a compass. One of the stories in the book Fix This Next, and I'll share this book with you here. So there's this book from 2020. It's called Fix This Next. And you'll notice like, hey, this book looks a lot like this one. Well, this book right here was written by Mike Michalowicz. And this was written in 2020. It was released during the pandemic. That's when I read it. And I instantly connected with this book because what happened was the stories that he told in here was kind of the way that I got myself out of my corporate job. So it's almost like he tapped into my brain and wrote this thing. And Mike, if you're watching, how'd you do that? But see, one of the things that Mike talks about is he talks about this hiker. Her name is Amanda Eller. And what happened was she was in Maui and she went out for a hike one day. She pulls up to this park, reservoir. She's going to go for this walk. She leaves basically her phone and keys, wallet, whatever. She leaves that in the car. It's Maui, man. Nothing's happening in Maui. she goes out for this walk, and she had been on this trail before. She walked about a mile. I think on that day she was going to try to walk about 4 miles. Okay. So she goes out there and she starts walking, and she sees this stump that's kind of off the beaten path a little bit. It was also like a tree had fallen down. And so she decided that she was going to go over there and meditate for a while. She did. She closed her eyes, she meditates. She's done. She opens her eyes again, and she's now ready to proceed back to her car. But she got disoriented, and she decided to go down this path that she thought was taking her back to her car, but it wasn't. It wasn't the path to her car. It was a path to getting lost. On day 4 of being lost, with no cell phone, no idea where she was, on day 4, she finds herself on top of a waterfall. And she slips on this waterfall and comes crashing down and breaks her tibia. So now her leg is broken. She can't walk. She's having a hard time. She's in pain. She's out there in the woods. She's eating, berries that I don't know were safe. She didn't know they were safe either. She was hoping they were safe. And what happened was, so she's over there living by the waterfall, drinking the water, etc. On day 5, a flash flood comes racing down the river by the waterfall, and she had taken her shoes off to put into the sun, so to dry them out. The water gushing through the waterfall, through the river, takes her shoes and sends them downstream somewhere. That was day 5. Okay. She's crawling through the jungle. She's crawling, no hope in sight. But then she was rescued on day 17. For 17 days, she lived in the forest there. She lived in the woods, struggling, could not walk, was crawling. Her feet were so badly sunburned that she could not walk. And they actually thought that they were going to have to amputate her feet because of the sunburn. She did recover. But essentially, the biggest thing that she faced, besides being lost, was the fact that she didn't have a compass. She had no direction on which way to go. And that's what it's like running your business. I know that. You're looking at it and you're trying to find the best way forward, but it's a challenge. And because of that, what happens a lot of times is we get lost in our ways, we get discouraged, we get defeated. And I've seen so many times where people have just called it a day. And that, to me, is terrible. I've seen too many people start down the real estate path and not finish it because they reached that point to where they couldn't figure out what to do next and they gave up hope. And if you want proof of that, one, you can kind of look around. I mean, maybe today you're feeling challenged, or maybe you're feeling down on yourself. And I don't know, maybe that's you right now. I can tell you one thing. See this? This was me. And what is this, you ask? This was all my failed attempts at real estate investing. And they go back a very long time. So this book was not written out of theory. This book was written from the fact that I've been there. Not only have I succeeded in real estate investing, I've also failed multiple times. I know where I failed, and I see firsthand how so many other real estate investors fail. And if there's one thing that I hope that this book will deliver from now to the end of time, is just absolute hope. If somebody is like feeling painful, like they don't know how they're going to move forward with their real estate investing dreams, I hope that this is the lifeline for them. Okay. But it's really written for everybody, believe it or not. Back in the 90s, this guy, his name's Carlton Sheets. Some of you know that guy. If you know him, throw it in the chat if you knew Carlton Sheets. Yeah, Carlton Sheets was like the original, I don't know. He was on the the commercials, man. What are those things called? Infomercials. He was on the infomercials back in the 90s. And this guy, I say he's old, he's probably my age now, but this guy, he's sitting on his beach. No, he's sitting by the water from his Florida home by the pool, and people would come to his kind of home, and he would do these, infomercials where he's showing no money down. And look at this. This thing is so old. It's got cassette tapes, man. Look, can you guys see that? It's got cassette tapes. I owned this thing for a while, and then I sold it because I was like, this is not for me. I went through this thing, this no money down, and I could not believe, for the life of me, I could not believe that anybody would sell me their home with no money down. I thought that was an absolute farce, that nobody would do this. And back in the day, his whole strategy was about getting the classified ads, the Sunday newspaper, when the newspaper was like this thick and cost $0.25, to get that newspaper and go through the classified ads and find all the homes for sale. And you would call them and you'd find out who had the equity, and you say, hey, I'll buy your house from you, but I don't have any money, man. He gives you the script on how to do it and everything. Okay. I sold that thing. I sold this thing. I got rid of it. I was like, this is not for me. I guess real estate investing is not for me. On the day that this came to my house, I was so hopeful that this was the answer to what I always wanted, which is to be my own boss. And then, I don't know, within months later, I gave up hope. My dreams were dashed. I see that in so many people. Yeah, in the comments, you've heard of them, and it never worked for you either. Yeah. Look, the guy made lots of money, and I have no doubt that it works. There's too many people that this did not work for. It did not work for me. Probably, looking back at it, it didn't work for me because I had doubts. I doubted myself. And what I've learned is that when you doubt yourself, that's when trouble sets in. So that's why we're not going to doubt ourselves anymore. We're going to know exactly what to do, when to do it, because this book is going to serve as our compass. Okay? I last summer, when I was working on the book, kind of getting it ready, I was looking on eBay for something else, which I will share with you tonight. I was looking for something else, and I saw this on eBay, and I'm like, I have to order this. And then when it came and I opened it up, I was like, cassette tapes? How the heck do you play cassette tapes? And I ordered a cassette tape deck player off of Amazon. It came. It was terrible, man. I'm like, this is not even you can't listen to this garbage. Who can listen to a cassette tape? You can't do it. 1990 calls, they want their stuff back. So look, yeah, this was my first failure in real estate investing. I'm going to take a little side note here because I asked you guys, I told you I'm going to share with you what's in this box. And I see in the chat over here that you guys said, someone said Biscoff cookies. And I'm like, Biscoff cookies? Where'd that come from? And then as I'm talking to you, I look over and I'm like, 5 pounds of Biscoff. I do like Biscoff cookies, but number one, not 5 pounds worth. And number two, this is not cookies. Okay. I digress. So what I don't want to do is I don't want us chasing problems that are the wrong problem at the wrong time. And that's the survival trap. Mike Michalowicz talks about it in Fix This Next. I've experienced it. You've experienced, and this is it. This is where we're going to stop it. And what we're going to do is we're going to use as our compass something that's in this book. And in this book is something that I call the IPP, the Investor Priority Pyramid. Okay? So the IPP, which is the core premise of this book, is essentially going to help us determine what to fix next, because we cannot fix everything. You're going to hear me say that over and over again. We can't fix everything. We're not even going to try, but the IPP is going to serve as our compass. The thing that Amanda Eller needed in Maui was a compass. As business owners, we also need a compass, and well, frankly, we have it. I want to tell you one of the stories of the book that I actually opened with a story, and the story that I tell right at the beginning of the book is of a guy named Jonathan. And Jonathan, I did change his name so that I don't call him out, but Jonathan is a story where he was in the real estate investing space. He was one of my customers. And one day he sends me this email that says, hey, shut off all my subscriptions. He was leaving the business. And when I asked him, why are you leaving the business? Why are you quitting? He basically said, man, I didn't realize that being a business owner, an entrepreneur, required so much of me, of doing everything, of like chasing everything. I did this to spend more time with my family. And at the end of the day, I'm spending less. And I'm spending money when I was supposed to be making money. It's taking money out of my family's pocket. And see, that's the startup phase, right? Like that's the challenge. And that's what we have to prevent. That's what we have to stop from happening, because that little bit of doubt that gets into us, that creeps into us, is the thing that will take us out. I don't want anybody leaving any business, let alone this one, because every time you leave, your dreams are screaming, don't give up on me. I did what everybody else said to do, which was to go out and to keep working the corporate job, right? I got the college education. I kept working the corporate job. And, you know, I'm growing into the corporate world, but I always had this desire to own my own company. I joke that if you sit at work and you know, you have these company meetings and you look around and you're like, do these people actually care? Do these people care that the company is doing well this quarter? Do they care? Do they pretend to care? I frankly don't think people actually care if their big company does well or not. Now, maybe I'm wrong. But that's a problem when you're a vice president of a company. When you doubt that, you're in trouble, man. Come on, the chat says donuts. You might be right, or you might be wrong. Just saying. But one day, as I gave up on Carlton Sheets, I never gave up on the dream of real estate investing. And I find this guy, he had a book right here, Making Money with Mobile Homes. I think this was book number 2. Yeah. See, this was his second book. His first book was a book called Deals on Wheels. This is Lonnie Scruggs. And I really liked what Lonnie had to say. I thought his premise was really, really good. He was all about making money with mobile homes. In fact, I went to one of his workshops, and here's my notebook. The thing that Lonnie did is he invested in mobile homes, and not just any mobile home. He invested in mobile homes. And I do see the questions in the chat, and I will stop and answer them because I think it's an important one. Get a Walkman. Lonnie would invest in mobile homes that were in mobile home parks. And the reason that was his niche is because when a mobile home is sitting on land by itself, where the owner owns the land and the mobile homes are treated as a home, like a physical site-built home in the eyes of the banking world. So what happens is, if you wanted to go and you wanted to buy a mobile home and the land that it sits on, you could go to the bank and say, I want a mortgage. And you could get a mortgage. Now, mobile homes are kind of interesting, because when that same house, that same structure sits in rented land, like a mobile home park, where the owner does not own the land underneath it, the mobile home does not qualify for a mortgage because it's treated as a car. Now, I don't know if you know that or not, but it's interesting because the mobile home is treated as a car. So what would happen is, if somebody had a home in a mobile home park and they wanted to sell it, they had to basically sell it themselves because realtors were not interested in selling mobile homes in a mobile home park where you couldn't get a mortgage for it. You had to get a car loan. So Lonnie figured this out. And what Lonnie would do is he would go into these mobile homes parks, and he was in Virginia. He would go into these mobile home parks and he would find the ones for sale. At the time in the early 2000s, these mobile homes were selling for about $10,000. As he would go in there and he'd go look at it. And as he's going there, him and his wife would go, and they had this system down. I'm telling you, they had this, it was a beautiful system. And what they would do is they would go into the mobile home, and his wife would go out and she would find all of the weak spots in the flooring. Weak. And she would shout out, "The floor is soft in here, Lonnie." And mobile homes typically have certain areas where the floors are soft. Bathrooms, doors, it's where the wood gets wet. And every time she would shout out, you could see the seller of the home, which is always an individual. You could just see them like, oh, there it goes. Lonnie called his wife his squirrel dog. Don't call your wife your squirrel dog. That doesn't work too well. Okay. But Lonnie called his wife his squirrel dog because she's out there. She's looking for all the problems. And when all the problems were found, he would say to the owner, "Well, with all the problems, I can probably give you $2,000. Could give you $2,000. I can give you maybe $2,500, but you always try to go $2,000 or less." They would accept it because guess what? He had cash. They wanted out, and there was no other buyers. So they would accept the $2,000, and he would then go to his car and he'd take a for sale sign out. He'd put it in the front window, and the people who lived in the mobile home park who rented would come knock on the door, and they'd say, "How much for the home?" And he'd say, $10,000, $200 down and $200 a month. And they were like, "Sounds good." And he'd say 12% interest. And they're like, "Well, sounds good." And he was all about yield. It was all about yield. Okay. And Lonnie did that for years. He built up a loan portfolio that was quite impressive. And I decided, based on reading his book and going to his workshop, that, well, I wanted to go to do this too. It's funny, I'm looking because this workshop, I don't know if you can see it or not, says it was dated Charlotte, North Carolina, October 1st through the 3rd, 1999. That's how old this stuff is. This is how long my dream of being a real estate investor was. I learned how to do it from Lonnie. I did a deal. I flipped it. I flipped it for cash. I wanted a loan because that seemed exciting to me. I flipped it for cash, and I was okay with it. I mean, it was good. But I sold another one that was an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. All the time. The people who bought it from me, they were the most difficult people ever. I hated every bit of it. Finally, one day, the guy who was buying it from me, he calls me up. He's like, "How much do I owe you?" I said, $6,500. He said, "Be here at 6 p.m. and bring the title." And I was like, "Are you paying it off?" He's like, "Yeah." So I showed up, and I get there. As I'm leaving, I tell my wife, I'm like, I guess they're going to pay me $6,500 cash. I don't know. Maybe this is the end. I don't know. So we go get the, I take the car down there. I go to the mobile home park. I get there. There's 5 guys there. There's the guy that's buying it from me and 5 other guys. And I'm like, oh man, this is the end. So I walk up to him and he said, "You got the title?" And I had pre-signed it and it was in my back pocket. And I was like, "Yeah, I sure do." I take it out and I hand it to him. I'm like, "But $6,500. And he's like, "Okay." And he looks at one of the other guys that are there. He's like, "Give him $6,500. So they start counting out hundreds, 100, 200, 300. 400. Let me tell you something. When they got to like 1,500, I lost count. I didn't care anymore. All I was worried about was my entire life safety. That was it. So they're counting out this dollars, $6,100, $6,200, $6,300, $6,400, $6,500. I take the wad of cash. I put it in my pocket. I give him the title. I'm like, "You good?" He's like, "I'm good. You good?" I'm like, "I'm good." And then I started to slow back up to the car. Got in the car, locked the door. Never did another deal again. Because I realized in that moment that you cannot get rich getting dead. I can't say the other word because I'm afraid that YouTube will do something to me. This went into a file cabinet, never to be seen again until this book birthday party. But my dream it died just for a little bit. It went on pause, but I didn't give up. I didn't want to give up to the dream of real estate investing. But if you're counting at home, that's now 2 attempts. My third attempt came from trying to do some lease option stuff. That did not go too well. Didn't go too well. My fourth attempt was in tax lien investing. I do have another attempt here. I don't count it in any of my attempts only because it was kind of a weird niche-y thing. But this thing is called, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's called Power Cash Flow, the mechanic lien system. And the guy that kind of produced this material, his whole deal is he was always doing like some niche-y real estate investing stuff. And even though I did do this, I did try it, I never really counted it as real estate investing because while it technically is real estate investing, to me it's not, because what you're doing is you're buying the mechanic liens that contractors place on homes, and you're buying them for 50 cents on the dollar, and then you're selling, then you're basically calling the person who didn't pay the bill to the contractor and saying, hey, I now own this. I did like one of these, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense either. So in the filing cabinet it goes. Little side note, this nice little notebook. You'll see this company right here. This is one of my corporate gigs back from the 90s. I still have their notebook. I don't think they're going to miss it. Not by now. I tell you these stories because I want you to really understand that it's easy to give up on your real estate investing dreams. It's so easy to give up on it, and that's what I don't want you to do. And what I found is that in looking back, once I found success in real estate investing, I found that as I looked back and diagnosed what had happened in the past, it was the model that I outlined in the IPP that basically caused me not to be able to prioritize what really to fix next, because there's always so many things coming at me. I didn't have a compass. I didn't know if I should be focusing on this or that. And in the state of overwhelm, as humans, we shut down. And I did the corporate thing, man. And this is where the question comes in. The question here in the chat says, how did you balance your corporate job with your dream? And I'm so glad that this question is in the chat at this particular time. It's almost like, they put it there a few minutes ago and I'm just now getting to it. So they kind of seeded it for me a little bit. But what happens is, what I did was, once I discovered the path out, once I discovered kind of the challenges that I was going to face and built my own system to get out of it, which I really document in the book, Fix This Next for Real Estate Investors. When I did that, then I got laser focused on my time management. And I've talked about this throughout the years, but the thing is that as you're building your side hustle, what makes it so hard is that you're focusing on your day job, and you're focusing on your family, and you're focusing on this side hustle that you're hoping and praying will get you out of the rat race and give you to the freedom that you want. And so what I did was I had a very strict schedule. And I'm telling you, I don't necessarily operate with military precision in everything, but when it came to that schedule and getting me out of the corporate job, I absolutely did. And this is what it looked like. First of all, I took my job very seriously. It fed my family. And even though I had this belief that it was going to go away, I didn't know when or if that was actually true. So I needed to make sure that that was the priority. My job had to pay my bills and support my family. So that became number one. I never let my investing get in the way of my job. Second is what I would do is I was very, very diligent about I would take a lunch. And during my lunch, I would focus on my business. So I would leave the company. I left the building, and every day, I found myself at a Publix right down the street. So before I left the building, I ordered my Publix sub. That's a grocery store if you don't know. I ordered my sub. I went to the grocery store. I grabbed it, and I ate there at the deli. They had some tables. I had a laptop with me, and I'm just doing what I had to do. Phone calls, posting ads, doing whatever I had to do. Lunchtime was there, and I was back. Okay. Maybe I went 10 minutes over from time to time. Maybe sometimes a little bit longer than that. But my lunchtime was a work time for me, for my side hustle. If I couldn't, when I was trying to make sales calls, or if I was trying to deal with other people that I needed to coordinate with, around 3 o'clock, I gave myself a 15-minute break. Okay? That's when I would work again. So I would go do this for another 15 minutes. At that time, I would come home, and I did leave my job like at 5:30, 6. I'd go home and I'd eat. I'd spend some time with the children and my wife, and then at 8 o'clock, I'm back in my office, 8 to 11, religiously, Monday through Friday. I followed that schedule precisely. And when I was working in my office from 8 to 11, it was dialed into what I needed to do. So if I needed to post ads, I had it blocked out. I gave myself the 15 or 20 minutes that I needed to get what I needed done. Okay. Phone calls, I'm making phone calls from 8 to 9. Okay. Or if I needed to make a phone call, because remember, I live on the East Coast. I live in Florida. So the West Coast, that gave me more time at night, especially where I was dealing with real estate that was out in Arizona, out in Nevada, talking to people in California. See, I had a little bit of an advantage. Now, maybe you're like, hey, I don't really know how I can do that when I need to go back and kind of be supportive of, maybe you're on the Pacific Coast or the West Coast, and you got to deal with a different time zone. So anyway, you have to figure out the schedule that's going to work for you. Weekends. Let's talk about weekends. Weekend mornings. I got up and I worked on my business. My son was a lacrosse player. He wanted to play lacrosse. He was involved in sports. Guess what? I couldn't always do it. I couldn't always do the weekend mornings. So weekend nights I would do it. I will also say that one of the things that made it super, super easy to do all of this was a supportive wife. My wife was extremely supportive of this pursuit. She's been supportive of all my pursuits, and she's right there in the corner. She's always rooting for me, and because she also knows that not only am I chasing my own dreams, but I'm chasing the dreams for our family too. So that helped me, right? Like, I'm not going to deny that it didn't. She gets a best wife ever award. So military precision is what it took for me to kind of balance that. And sometimes it was painful. And this is a story that I talk about in the book, is that I had been doing this for about 9 months. I had been doing my business for about 9 months. I started my real estate investing, my 5th time in real estate investing. I started at the end of October of 2014. And around July, so that's not even 9 months. What is that? Yeah, it's like 8 months, somewhere in that range. In July of 2015, I found myself traveling for work, and I was in Oklahoma City. And on this particular day, and I do write about this in the book. I write about this in chapter 1. I talk about my walk in Oklahoma City. And the thing about it is that what happened on this particular day is my boss at the time, I had a great boss, by the way. When I worked in my corporate job, all my bosses were great, except near the end. And I'm not saying they were bad bosses. That's not what I'm saying, because if they're watching this or everybody see it, look, they had a job to do. And their job was basically to take all the work that me and my team did, and they had to do what they needed to do. And it was strictly business. So I'm not saying they were mean, bad, or bad-mouthing them. I'm just saying that on one given day, my boss at the time basically was pushing, but he pushed me in the wrong way in terms of he basically laid into me that my team failed to do something, but he didn't have all of the data. My team actually prevented something from happening, and it was somebody else on his team, one of his friends, whose team caused the problem. But in front of me, in front of his entire team, all of my peers, he laid into me. And when that happens and you know that your job is on the line and that, you know, they're basically making it more difficult for you, it was a brutal day. And I'm in Oklahoma City, and I'm walking out of the building that day, and I'm just like, I can't deal with this, right? Like, I can't deal with this job. And then I got this business that, is it really going to take off? All the self-doubts that maybe you feel. And look, if we're all just being honest, we all feel that way. We all feel that we have self-doubts. Like, sometimes we look in the mirror and it's like, am I really capable of this? I mean, does that ring a bell to you? Does that sound familiar to you? If so, throw a yes in the chat, because what I have always found is that there's so many times where I feel unstoppable. And then one day this little inner critic troll gets onto my shoulder and gives me all of the reasons why I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, see, it's there. It's in the chat. We all have that. We all have that. And I think that we don't talk about it. At least people I know don't talk about that. But we should talk about it, especially people that are going down this avenue that we are. Only 7% of the population owns businesses. Think about that number for a second. You're part of 7% of the population. You're doing something most people don't do. And the reason that they don't do it is because, well, maybe they don't want to. Self-doubt. It's just safer being an employee in their minds. This particular day, I was about to throw in the towel. I was about to throw in the towel on my corporate job. I was like, I don't think I can come back tomorrow. This is ridiculous. My boss was supposed to be on vacation. Next thing I know, he's like yelling at me on a staff meeting call, telling me how I could be like incompetent, that my team would let this down. And I'm trying to explain to him, I'm like, right there in front of him, I'm like, brother, I'm not going to say his name. I want to call him right now. Brother, I told him, I'm like, you don't have the whole story. And he said, I do have the whole story, and you need to just accept it. And I said, you do not have the whole story. And in fact, so I left there, and I'm in Oklahoma City. It's July. It is hot as can be. I don't know if you've ever been to Oklahoma City. My guess is that unless you live in Oklahoma City or unless your job is taking you there, you probably have not been there. I don't know that it's a destination that you're ever going to go vacation in. It's a very nice town. Personally, I don't want to live there, and I know I spent a lot of time there. But one of the things about Oklahoma City is that they have this big park. It's on the north side of town. It's called Lake Hefner. And Lake Hefner is pretty cool because there's this big lake. It's a massive lake. There's like a big walking trail around it. It's about a 10-mile walking trail around it, and everybody goes there. But the problem with Oklahoma City is that is the windiest place I've ever been. They talk about Chicago being the windy city. No way. They might think they're the windy city. They've never been to Oklahoma City. That place is the windiest city I've ever been. That place has the craziest weather you've ever seen in your entire life. There's a reason why the storm chasers are in Oklahoma. It's crazy. 10 miles around this lake. And the interesting thing about Oklahoma too, fun fact, for those of you that don't know, guess what? Oklahoma has no natural lakes. At least that's what I remember. I could be wrong. No natural lakes. They're all man-made. And the internet, if you're listening to this and I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong. I'm okay with that too. I'm walking around this lake and I'm ready to call in, just throw in the towel. My business is not where I want it to be. You're like, well, how long have you been doing it? 7 months, right? I thought I'd be further along in 7 months. I really did. I thought at 7 months I would be making more money than what I was making. I thought I'd have more systems together than what I had. I thought my team members would be better than what they were. I had this vision of like, just, yeah, everything is terrible in my business. And then I got to deal with this corporate job where this guy won't get off my back. And I just think he wants me out of the company. So I go to this park in Oklahoma City. I start walking. I don't even know how I could breathe with all the heat and the wind. I start walking through this park and I'm starting to think through like, okay, I can go get a job. I can go get a corporate job somewhere, another job. If I do that, what happens to my real estate investing business? Well, it's going to have to get tabled because coming up to speed, there's no way that I can do that work-life balance that I just laid out for you guys on how I did it. I couldn't do that. So I'm walking through there. I was getting ready to call it a day. I was getting ready to shut down my investing business. I was going to get a corporate job. And that was it. That would have been the end. And the thing that kept calling out to me is don't give up on your dreams. Scott, you cannot give up on your dreams. You've wanted this your entire life. Now go get it. So I get back in the car. And as I'd say I turn around and start walking back to the car. As I'm walking back to the car, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I've got all these problems with my side hustle, with my real estate investing business. I got all these problems. Man, I don't have this in place. I don't have this in place. And it seems like everything is on me. It's on my shoulders. It seems like I'm doing all this work. I have a person that's supposed to be helping me, but does she really help me? I don't think she's really helping me. She's supposed to be doing all this stuff, but I end up doing it anyway. You know, you're there. And then I realized as I'm walking back, I'm thinking about one of my bosses that I really liked at my corporate job, who one day during a job or during a annual review, he said to me, he said, you know what you have going for you? I said, what's that? And he said, you're very pragmatic. I was like, I'm pragmatic? I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what it meant. I'd love to stand here and tell you like, yeah, that's me. I didn't know pragmatic. I had to go like look it up. I had to go Google it. What is pragmatic? Oh, you're able to prioritize. And that's basically what he was saying. He's saying, hey, look, you have this skill that you can look at something and say, that's important now or that's not important. And then you focus on the important stuff. And as I'm walking back, his words are echoing in my brain saying, wait a minute. Scott, all you got to do here for your business is all you have to do is prioritize the most important stuff. Prioritize the most important stuff. And when you do that, then you will start to get out of this trap that you're in. And I started getting excited again. I went from ready to call it a day, where the inner critic troll was telling me this is never going to be as big as you need it to be. You're never going to be able to replace your income from this little side hustle that you're doing. Who do you think you are? If it was this easy, everybody would be doing this. Why you? That feeling is real for everybody. People won't tell you that. Maybe if you ask them privately, they might tell you. I'm telling you publicly. I have it, and other people that I know have that exact same feeling. I got in the car. I went to a restaurant, and I get to the restaurant. I had a notepad with me. Like, you'd be amazed. I have all this stuff here with me tonight, and the one thing I don't have is a notepad. We're going to use this, my outline for tonight, which I'm not even following. My team told me, follow this outline, you'll be okay. I don't even know where I am on this outline. Doesn't matter. I turned a piece of paper like this. I drew some lanes. I call them swim lanes. And basically what I did is, oh, you know what? Look, I'm going to show you what I did right here. I have it. I have it ready to go for you. I have it ready to go. Here we go. Let's see how do I do this. Ding, ding, ding. That's over there. I need to hit this button here, and then I'm going to hit this button. Oh, look at that. I figured it out. Like, here's my swim lanes. This is actually a figure from the book. Some of you have seen this before. Maybe you haven't. Basically, what I do is I create a lane for all of the work that I do. Okay, now you can make this bigger, longer. It can have 10 lanes, 5 lanes, 3 lanes, whatever the number of lanes you want, but every lane has an actor. The actor is what you see on the left side here. So that top actor, well, that's me. Then I had my virtual assistant, and then I had technology, and then I had external parties, people that were not in my organization. And so this is just a sample, right? So you can see that we start off with the starts due diligence. Is it good to go? If so, it comes up to me to approve. You follow the line. It says respond to the seller. Who responds to the seller? Well, the virtual assistant did. Basically, I sat down at this restaurant and I created this entire system like this. I built my entire business like this, and I could see, for the first time, I could see the work that I was doing, or the work that was supposed to be waiting for me, where I was the bottleneck. And at that dinner, I realized in that moment that the problem that I was experiencing is that everything came back to me. Everything came back to me. Today, I call that the control constraint or the control trap. Okay? When the bottleneck is you have the control over it. It's your fault. So today, I try to get out of everything. And that's part of what I want you thinking about, is where in your business are you the bottleneck? Because wherever you're the bottleneck, you need to take that and stop. You got to remove yourself from being the bottleneck. You want nothing to be in your lane. Dan Martell wrote a book, Buy Back Your Time. And in that book, he talks about the fact that, I think it's in that book, or maybe it's on a video that he has. He said that you want to know nothing. As the business owner, you want to know nothing. And that's what I started deploying, is I didn't know anything. Today, my team will ask me, how do we do this? And I'm like, I don't know. Figure it out. I know. I shouldn't say that, because my team's going to be like, you said you knew. Because they're going to go watch this. They're going to say, you told me you knew. Well, maybe I know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I just outed myself. Self-doubt. I'm looking at the comments here. Self-doubt. Actually, how do you address it? I think that the question of how do you address it is really going back to the planning your work. And I think that was really with the military precision, but maybe I'm wrong. If you want to tell me what you meant about how do you address it, I will come back to that if it's not answered. How do we fix the spaghetti brain syndrome? I think that the way that we do that is we number one, plan our work, but this tool that I'm laying out right here, this is going to give us clarity as to how the system operates. This right here, building systems, is the thing that will separate all businesses. And that's what this is this is just a map of the system of our business. I think we sometimes forget or don't realize that really what makes a business is not, a sales call or a marketing, how we write ads. It's really your job as the business owners to create systems. And what systems do is they support how work flows through the business. So as an example, people will say to me, I get these leads and, well, the leads, sometimes they go somewhere, sometimes they don't go anywhere. And what I say is, hey, the problem that you experience is that you don't have a very good sales system. See, a system means that some raw material comes in here and it comes out the other end as some finished product. That's what a system is designed to do. So if this was my sales system here, a lead would come in somewhere on the left side, and on the right side, what would come out is a sale, more money. Okay, that's the whole goal here. That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to build a system that just works for us. So how do we now take this bigger concept of our self-doubt, and how do we take this and turn this into a compass that's designed to work for us? And we really don't have to turn too far to find our friend that we probably learned about in school, high school or college. I know I did. This guy named Maslow. And Maslow, back in the day, created this hierarchy of needs. And the thing about Maslow is that what we probably didn't understand about him is that ultimately he created this, hierarchy of needs to really show us where we prioritize things. So when I was in college and learned about this, I really didn't pay any attention to it. But at the very bottom down there, we have the physiological needs. This is things like, I've got to eat. I've got to sleep. I need to drink some water, right? I need to eat some Biscoff cookies or a donut or whatever else that we're going to eat. These are the things that we need, the physiological needs, and we cannot function without them, okay? So right off the bat, if we're tired, none of this other stuff matters. If we're so tired that our life safety is on the line, that's not going to matter if we're just exhausted and we can't wake up, or we have to use the restroom, right? That's going to preoccupy our time. Just thinking about, I got to eat, I got to use the restroom. Now, once our physiological needs are met, now we move into the safety needs, okay? And the thing about the safety needs is safety covers many different things. One, it's my own personal protection. It's, am I safe? Am I in a safe environment? Am I safe from harm? Is my family safe from harm? Am I financially safe? Do I have financial constraints that's going to stop me from living? Do I need money? Look, you do not care if you need money if you have no energy because your physiological needs aren't met, right? Like, you need money. That's a bigger concern, or your own safety, once your physiological needs are met. And this is the words of Maslow. Then we move on to our social needs. And once our physiological needs are met and once our safety needs are met, then we go to our social needs. And our social needs, when we're focusing on our social needs, oh, I see. I'm gonna move for a second because you caught me up on the chat here. Self-doubt. I'm gonna talk to you about self-doubt in a minute, okay? I'm gonna come back to self-doubt. I promise you, because it's so important. I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna tell you what the game changer for me was too. Okay, so social needs. Look, once our safety is met and our physiological needs are met, guess what? Now we want to be social. We want to meet people. We want to, go and form relationships. We find a mate. We find a partner. We do all these things. We can go be social with people. If we do not have safety, financial security, or we don't feel safe, we're not going to worry about being and hanging around with other people. Period. End of story. And guess what? If if we need to use the restroom, we're not going to worry about socializing with each other because we're going to be in the restroom. That's just the way that it works. Side note, if you and I are talking at a social event and you have to use the restroom, please choose to use the restroom as opposed to stand next to me and use the restroom. Just saying. Say, we have choices, but we're not going to do that. We'd be like, what the heck? Once our social needs are met, we can move into self-esteem. These are the needs that basically allow us to feel good about ourselves. Self-actualization is us becoming who we were meant to be. You're reaching your self-actualization when you're living the life that you were intended to live. But you can't do that if you're hungry or you need to use the restroom. I keep picking on the bathroom. You're going to bolt. We all know it. But what if we took that same model, that same piece, and we turned it into something that we could use in our businesses? See, this is where the investor priority pyramid comes in. This is where the IPP comes in. And the IPP, just like Maslow, has 5 levels. The bottom level is deal flow. This is the creation of cash for our business. Let's just face it. We cannot run a real estate investing business, or for that case, any business, without cash in the business. This is where our need for capital lives. This is where our deal flow lives. This is where our ability to attract prospects lives. And this is where our ability to convert those prospects into cash sales lives, or sales. I shouldn't say cash sales, but sales. This is where it lives, because this is where cash enters our organization. The next level up is once we have some adequate deal flow, and once we have the capital to do the very next deal, when we have these components, then we can focus on the profit of the business. Is the business making a profit? Because let's be honest, if you don't have deal flow, or better yet, if you don't have capital to invest in your very next property, well, you shouldn't worry about being profitable yet, because guess what? You can't even do the deal to be profitable. Profitability should come next. Now, within each of these levels, if you will, there's 5 core needs, and in each level, and I will go through those 5 core needs with you. I'll show them to you. I think I have it on a slide here. Let's see. I have some of them, but I'll tell you where you can find them too. Okay, so we'll look at that. But when we're talking about profit, the next level up is when we're talking about this profit, what's happening here is that this is where we start to get into, hey, is our company debt-free or not? Are we using debt when it makes sense or not? Are we running better profit margins or not? How are we, what are we doing here to become more profitable? Because once you have enough deal flow, well, then you really can't survive without then forming some level of stability, which is where the profit comes in. So some of the core needs that's there in that profitability level is, cash reserves and margin health, and one of my favorites, which is transaction frequency, which is probably one of the hardest things for real estate investors to kind of deal with, is this concept of transaction frequency. The next level up here is the creation of efficiencies. This is the order. And some of the things that we're looking at when we're thinking about order is, do you minimize wasted effort? And are your people's roles aligned with the responsibilities? And do you delegate outcomes, or do you delegate, specific how work gets done? What do you delegate? And are you the most important piece of your business? That's linchpin redundancy. And then the last one, that's one of my favorite to talk about in this order level, is mastery reputation. Are you known for being the best in your industry? Once you've fulfilled those, then you move on to being able to focus on impact. Now, the thing about impact here is this: when we're dealing with impact here, what we're focusing on here is, are we making a difference for our clients and for our communities? And are we making a difference for our employees and our team members? Are we adding value to their lives? And are we trying to drive change within the organization and within the communities, or are we just continuing to kind of take and not deliver anything back for them? And finally, when we get to this legacy up here at the top, this is where we're talking about making this business last forever. 5 levels. And the thing about these 5 levels is that you never master any of the levels. Just like in Maslow, where every day we wake up and we have to go hunt for food, every day you have to look at where your business is in this 5 levels. and you have to go after the one that is the most pressing need. Because you really can't focus on stuff that's up here if you need sales. I see so many people that they need sales or they need capital, okay? Capital or sales. They need cash in their business. And do you know what they're working on? They're working on order. They're working on building automation. And I'll say to them, why are you working on building automation? Why aren't you going after capital? Why aren't you trying to build capital? Why aren't you trying to build capital partners? Why are you trying to build automations and technology? And they tell me, it's easier, it's fun, it's productive, it feels good. But this is a great example of the survival trap in practice. And maybe you're guilty of it tonight. And that's okay. I was guilty of it too. I sat down and I helped to build a computer software that essentially helped to automate my business. Did I need to do that? No, I didn't need to do that. But I did it. And it took away resources from my own business. It took resources away at a time in which what I should have been doing is going out there and, making sure I had the capital that I needed to do my very next deal, or to be writing more ads, or to be perfecting the ads. So that's the whole thing, is how do we go in there and build the tools that we need to do to build the system? And all we have to do is we can answer literally 25 questions, yes or no questions, that tell us where our biggest core need is. And this is the IPP in practice. So let me give you an example. I'm going to bring this up again. Let's look at this. Deal flow. The deal flow level, this bottom level down here. The 5 core needs that are at that bottom level are lifestyle congruence. And what that means is, do you know what your freedom number is? Do you know what it takes to get out of the rat race, to set yourself free? Because you cannot go do that. You cannot achieve that goal without knowing exactly what freedom looks like. And that is step number 1. If you haven't done it, I got good news for you, because on this video, we are going to do it together. Step 2, available capital. Do you have enough capital to complete your next transaction? Not your next 10 transactions, not your next 100 transactions. Can you do one more transaction? And if the answer is no, then you have to go get capital. You cannot go get deals. You have to go get capital first. That's one of the mistakes that I made, is I followed what everybody else said, which was go find a deal. Go find a deal and the money will appear. And I say that's not true. I say that's not true. And the reason that I say that that's not true, and some of you will be able to point to me and say, no, this guy did it, or you did it, or I just did a deal like that not too long ago. And you're like, what? You just did a deal like that? See, I didn't have to have the capital in my bank account. I needed the capital partner lined up. I needed to know that I could go get the money before I went and got the deal. I knew I could get the money, so I had the deal. But if you don't have the capital partners ready to go, and you try to go get the big deal, and then you try to go hunt for the capital partners, you're going to lose the big deal. So the first step is getting the capital partners. I have to take a swig of water here. So the first step here is to go and to build a capital partner network if you don't have one. And if you don't have the capital to go do your next deal, you need capital. I wrote about this in the book. Is I went to a Real Estate Investor Association meeting. I was sharing this framework at that meeting. I was doing a presentation on it. And basically, at that meeting, a guy gets up, and after I got done presenting, they had like an open floor kind of session where people could get up and they could talk about the deals that they had under contract, and they were looking for capital. They were doing capital second. They were getting the deal first and then coming back for the capital, the thing that I say don't do. And I had just gotten done saying, don't do that. And this guy gets up there and he's talking about this deal that he has under contract. It was a multifamily apartment deal, I think 10 or 12 units. He had it under contract. He had put every dollar he had into the down payment and to the due diligence. He's standing there at this Real Estate Investor Association meeting following the words of advice that every other big person tells him, which is get the deal and the cash will appear. And he's literally begging for cash to get the deal closed because he couldn't do it. He's at the 11th hour begging for some capital partner to step in. He didn't do it. And he lost his money. His ego got hit. His self-doubt creeped in. He lost his confidence. And when you lose your confidence, guess what? You punch out. He's the type of guy that lost thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And it would have been different if he had the capital partner lined up first. But he followed what the general advice was. And that's why I tell you it's not great advice. And this brings me back to the question about the self-doubt. How do you overcome that self-doubt? How do you overcome those inner critic trolls? And what I'm going to say to you is that you never overcome them. They never go away. I live with them every single day. Every single day. I got to tell you something, being very transparent, is we planned this event, and then I looked at it and I thought, what did I do? I've committed to talk about this for 3 hours. What? It looked good. And then I had self-doubts. Will anybody show up? Well, there's people here, right? I see you. There's people here. Is there thousands of people here? Not right now. It's okay. It's recorded. And I think that's the thing, is you have to understand that the mere fact of doing it anyway is the absolute power behind it. When you have that inner critic troll that's sitting right here and causing you to have fear, doubt, everything that's in this book, every word I wrote, you don't know how many times I was writing this book and I was thinking, is anybody going to read this thing? Does anybody care about this? Is this going to change anybody's life? And I kept going. And I would say to the little troll, thank you. I hear you. I'm going to go do it anyway. There's a book that I highly recommend, and it's a book that I did find on my journey, and it's called The War of Art. So not the art of war that, it's been around forever. This is the reverse of that. It's The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And I don't have it here only because it's on my Audible. And the thing about the War of Art is Steven Pressfield is an author. He's written novels. You may know one of his novels as the Legend of Bagger Vance, that movie with, I think, Brad Pitt's in there. I forgot who else. There's a female actress I can see her. I can't think of her name right now. She's in there. He wrote that, but he also wrote countless other books that never went anywhere. And basically in this book, and I do like the audio version because I like hearing how he addresses it. I think it's a great book. You should check it out. But ultimately, what he says in that book is, you know what? You just do it anyway. That's the way that it is. And that book is really written for creatives like authors or actors or anybody else. But at the same time, it's also written for entrepreneurs, business owners. And I highly recommend that you listen to it or read it. Stephen Pressfield, The Art of War. I found out about that book because my editor on Fix This Next for real estate investors, my editor, her name is AJ Harper. She wrote a book, and her book is called Write a Must Read. And you may not have heard, like you may not know her, you may have never heard of her. I can tell you that if you've ever wanted to write a book, you need to read this book. Okay, this is the book that you must read. This is the must-read book. And the thing about AJ is she is probably the most down-to-earth person in terms of writers, but she has lived that same thing where she's had that inner critic troll her whole life. She talks about it in this book. She talks about it other places where she had self-doubt to the point that it was crippling. All she ever wanted to do was to be a writer. And while you may have never heard of her until today, I can tell you that she is also the co-writer of almost all but one of Mike Michalowicz's books. She is his co-writer. Okay, so you may not know her on her own, but the words that fill Profit First and Clockwork and all Mike Michalowicz's work comes from working with AJ Harper, who is also an editor, who is also the editor for my particular book as well. So I was first introduced to Stephen Pressfield to work through her, and I will tell you that that whole process gave me a whole new insight into it. And so if you're suffering with self-doubt and you're looking for ways to overcome it, well, just know that you don't fail unless you quit. That's the first thing I'd say. Nothing is going to be a disaster. Everything will be okay. And if you listen to Stephen Pressfield, you'll see that everybody deals with this. I was last month in December, I was at an author meetup. Mike Michalowicz was there, and I think it was at that event he was talking about how, here's a guy that does 40 public speaking gigs a year, and at that event he was talking about how he every time he goes on stage, he gets a little nervous. So here's a guy that does this 40 times a year, and you would think, like, here's a guy that's just a professional. He does it anyway. He's grateful for the opportunity, and he does it anyway. That's how we're going to deal with our self-doubts. But that's the thing, is when we're talking about the deal flow and the creation of cash, this is the thing that stops most real estate investors. They don't get too far because, I'll go back to it, because when you're needing cash or capital, or you're needing sales and money into the business, and we find it easier to worry about the logo or the company name or the company website or anything else, that's not going to get us to where we need to be. We're going to go into this pattern of fixing the wrong thing. This is the survival trap, when we fix the wrong thing, okay? So that's what we're trying to avoid, and that's why this assessment that we can take becomes our compass. It becomes the thing that we want to do and understand, like, this is the way that we're going to lead ourselves out of it. So how does the IPP work? Well, I'm going to give you a couple resources. Number one, in the book, I give you the 25 questions of the IPP, and there's literally just 25 yes or no questions, okay? And I kind of went through them a little bit here. I went through the deal flow because I talked to you about, do you know your numbers? Do you have the cash? Do you have deal attraction? Are you getting people who can support your, the properties that you need to buy? Are you attracting prospects that you can sell to, and are you converting them? That's it. And the deal flow, if you could answer yes to all of those things, well, then you don't have a deal flow problem. Now you can move on to the capital or to the profitability level. But if you can't answer yes to all of these questions, then you need to be focusing on where that no is. And it's not the logo. Now, if you're not going to buy the book, and like, that's fine. Like, everybody has, resource constraints or desires or whatever, no problem. you can always head over to the website for this book, which is fixthisnextforrealestateinvestors.com. You can do the assessment there for free. And there's no charge for the assessment. There's not going to be a charge for the assessment. Take the assessment, okay? Find out what your vital need is. What's the thing that you need to focus on now? And where I think a lot of people mess up on that assessment is they take the assessment and they're like, okay, well, it says I don't know my numbers, so now what? Well, you calculate your numbers, and then you go back and you take the assessment again. You find out where the next core need is, the next one that's broken. And when you find that one, you go and you fix that one. And then when you found it, take the assessment again and take the assessment again. And you don't stop taking the assessment. You keep taking the assessment because it's always pointing you to the exact next problem that you have. You don't really need to think about it. You don't need to worry about, oh, should I focus on, becoming more profitable today or going out and building a capital network? It's there. It's in the assessment. Do I need to focus on, going out and becoming more profitable and cutting my expenses? Or do I need to focus on getting more prospects in so I can convert them to leads? You need to focus on the leads versus the profitability in the beginning, right? Like when you have enough sales and you have enough of the deal flow to support the profit level, then you can fix the profit stuff. But if you don't have deal flow, any deal flow, or any prospects or enough prospects, then you have to fix that stuff first before you can worry about profitability and before you can worry about, making an impact for your customers and being a good Samaritan to society. You can't do those things when you have core needs that are at a base level, like your own need to eat. So what does this assessment even look like? I mean, this is taken right from the book here. And you can see that in this case, what we're talking about is this lifestyle congruence is number one. And this is just one of the questions here. It says, do you know the numbers, or do you know what your company's sales performance must be to support your personal growth or your personal comfort? Your personal comfort. Okay. And if the answer is yes, we move on. And then it says, do you have the capital needed to do your next deal? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, that is your vital need. That is the thing that you must fix next. Okay, let's look at another example here. Let's just say that all of these are yeses. See, we can answer yes to all of these. No problem. We keep going. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, see, hold on a minute. I got to make this bigger. So what if we could answer no, yes to all of those? Well, then we keep going. And then now we move on to the profit level. So notice that once we move on to here, we talk about debt eradication and profitability leverage. I mean, are we using debt the right way? And then we get to transaction frequency. Do you maximize your revenue from each client? Yes or no? And if the answer is no there, guess what? You have a vital need in that section that you have to fix next. It's as simple as knowing, just asking yourself these questions. And again, the assessment tool that I created to support this book is designed to give you a historical perspective of your history over time. Literally, if you take the assessment today and you answer the questions, it will tell you what to work on next. You go work on that. When you fix it, go back, take the assessment again. Take the assessment, look at what it is, and just like, your lab work from your doctor, you can look historically at how you're changing and where you're going up and down. The thing to remember is that we are never, ever, ever, did I say never, ever, ever? I feel like I'm setting up for a Taylor Swift song, getting back together. No, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is we can never scale the IPP. And what I mean by that is that, look, we don't just get to deal flow and we check it off once in our lives and we're done. That's not the way that it works. What happens is that we move up and down constantly, just like we do with Maslow. You can go from waking up in the morning and needing food that you need to eat, which is a physiological need, to jumping right in to writing that book or doing something that's changing the world, or you living your self-actualization needs, you're living your best life. You can do that up and down all day long. Maslow's. With businesses, we're not necessarily moving up and down the IPP all day long. If so, that'd be wild. It'd be wild for you. I wouldn't recommend it. Find the problem that you need to fix next, and that's how we're going to go do that, okay? So as we go through this is what we're really thinking about. And this book is designed to give you some challenging thoughts, okay? So like when you're looking at some of these questions and you get to this point where you're like, transaction frequency. Do you maximize your revenue from each client? There's a company that I own. It's an IT training company, and we acquired the company. We acquired it many years ago, and I'm talking to the company team one day, and I just said to them, I said, it's interesting because we do a training event for a company, and they write us a check. We send them a bill, they write us a check, and we're out the door, and we rarely see them again. Rarely. Okay? Our customers rarely come back to us. And they're like, yeah, because they're trained. And I go, yeah, but now we have to go out and we have to find all these new customers, right? We have to go find all these new customers. Every single month, we got to go find new customers. What if we could stack these customers in together? What if we could just stack the customers together and let them grow? How would that change things? And they're like, And that's where this is. That's where this whole thing, this whole concept of building transaction frequency. Do you maximize your revenue from each individual client? In real estate investing, this is hard. Because let's say you're a house flipper and you buy a house and you go and flip it. Well, people tend to buy one house and that's it. Self-storage is pretty easy because you can sell multiple units to your customer. But self-storage also has it figured out for this transaction frequency. And if you think about it, what they're doing is they're trying to upsell you constantly. Oh, do you want insurance on your unit? I guess I do. Do you need a lock? Oh yeah, I need a lock. I mean, you could go to Home Depot and get your own dang lock, but guess what? They have it available for you. Oh, do you need a moving truck? We can put that onto your, oh, you need a dolly to help you move your stuff in and out. So real estate investors struggle with this concept. And let me tell you something, it's not just real estate investors, it's a lot of businesses. They struggle with this concept of maximizing revenue. McDonald's has it dialed down. The French fries, you want French fries with it? They're the ones that kind of are known broadly for coming up with this concept. But we have to think about that as real estate investors. Whatever your niche is in real estate investing, you have to think about that. How do you maximize the revenue? In writing this book, I came across a guy, and I did not include this in the book, but it was in my research. I came across a guy that essentially he is in Section 8 housing. So he is a landlord of Section 8 housing. And he has it figured out that, look, when you rent to Section 8 tenants, there's a requirement of what needs to be in the house. Okay, so you need a stove and you need an air conditioner. What's optional is like ceiling fans. Ceiling fans are optional. They're not required in a Section 8 house. I can't remember everything, but ceiling fans is a big one. I don't think microwaves are required either. I could be wrong. He had down whatever, a dishwasher. A dishwasher is not required. Whatever was not required, a garbage disposal is not required, by the way. Whatever's not required, he would say to the tenant as they're moving in, oh, do you want some ceiling fans? They're like, yeah. He's like, okay, that's $8 a month. Installed, $8 a month. Like, okay. So how many do you want? You want 4 of them? Well, that's $32 a month. Now, he's nickel and diming them. He's not in the book. I came across the story, but I also came across a lot of hate that he got for doing that. But the thing is that he is looking at ways that he can maximize the revenue. He's giving them what they needed, but then he's figuring out how to maximize that revenue. And the solution to this is not necessarily about nickeling and diming your customer, but the solution that I talk about in the book is how do you take this now and think about the customer journey, the journey that they're on, because your customer is on a journey. So for me, I deal with real estate, and my niche of real estate is land. That's what I focus on. And so if you think about the journey that our customer is on in the land business is, well, they buy the land and then what? So as you're thinking about your business, you should always be thinking about the and then what? They buy the land, and then what do they need? In self-storage, for example, what happens is they rent the unit and then they need to put the stuff there, hence the truck. And then they need insurance for the unit. And then they need a lock. So for your niche of real estate, you should think about what happens after the customer does a transaction with you. And then what? In land, guess what? They're not necessarily moving on to the land. The next step, though, in the process is a survey. See, they buy the land and then what? And then they get a survey. So what if I offered to finance the survey? Or what if I offered to coordinate the survey? What if I said to the surveyor, hey, how much is the survey? And he says it's $500. And I say, hey, Mr. Customer, I can arrange to have a survey done for you for $1,000. I'll finance it for you if that's what you want. Or I'll just make it easy. It's like concierge service. You want that? Some portion of your customers will say yes. It's no different than the portion of the customers that are out there saying yes to locks at the self-storage unit, or the Section 8 guy who's renting ceiling fans at $8 a piece, or garbage disposal at $10 a month, or a microwave for $15 a month, or whatever it is. So yeah, transaction frequency is a big thing there. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to understand and leverage as many of these as we can to maximize our benefit that we're seeing there. And that's the whole concept of this book, is not only to help you identify where your vital need is and the thing that you should be focusing on, but it's also there to help you stretch your imagination to say, are there better ways that we could be doing this? And this book talks a lot about some ways that you can keep track of these goals. Maybe you're familiar with the concept of OKR, okay? These are, objectives and key results, OKRs. It's a concept that was from Intel originally, OKRs, and it's a way, but you basically say, hey, here's our objective and here's the key results that are going to get us there. Well, in the book, I introduced this concept that's not OKRs, but it's ACRE. Okay, it's a way that you can set a goal, track and measure the results of that goal through the ACRE system. And I go through every one of these core and vital needs, and I explain the ACRE behind it, and we go through hypotheticals so that you can see it in practice. And it's an evergreen piece, so it's designed to be there for you when you're ready for it. I promised you tonight that that I'd cover the numbers with you and how to do the numbers, and I'll tell you what it is. Here we go. Let me go back over here to the questions because I see some. Does your wife help in the business? My wife does not help day to day in the business. She doesn't do that. I will tell you that what my wife does in the business is the thing that I appreciate the most. She is the core driver behind me, the core support person, because when I have those inner critic doubts and I have those voices telling me I can't do it, she's the one that's there to tell me, you got this, go do it. I'll tell you a story. I was writing the book and I went and had lunch with my wife one day. And this is a story in the book too, it's in the end of the book, but I went and had lunch with her one day. And while we were there at lunch, I'm telling her about this difficult chapter that I was writing. I told her it was a challenging chapter to write. And true to her personality and nature, she reaches her arm across the table and grabbed my arm right here. And she looked at me straight on and said, you got it. You'll do it. It's the way she is. She's the support behind it. So I would say she's the driver, and so I'd say that she's the one that allows me to do the stuff that brings me the most joy and to make the change that I want to see in the world. So that's how she helps in the business. The website is fixthisnextforrealestateinvestors.com. Okay. And in fact, how do I do this? Hold on a second. Let me see. Hold on a second. Wow. Every time. There we go. Okay. Let me see how I can do this. I tried this earlier. Let's see here. Yep, there it is. Okay. So now I'm going to go to this screen. Oh. Let's see. Does this work? You know, I love my Mac, but I also get frustrated because then when you go to do a screen share or something and it's not set up, then ultimately you have to go and like restart stuff. And hopefully, let's see if this comes in together. There it is. Look at that. Oh, wow. Look at that. That's interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, so it's got me and the screen on the side. I like that. Okay, so look, here's the website. It's fixthisnextforrealestateinvestors.com. And you can always come here to take the free assessment. When you do that, it will ask you, I'll come over here. It's going to take you to this website. You do your free evaluation and you put in your name, your email address. I promise you, you're not going to get spammed from this. It's just, it's creating an account for you. It's a free account. It's going to create an account for you so that you can go in there and look at, your assessments over time. If you have an account, once it's created, you can just come over here and log in. You can log in there, take the assessment. I promised you that we would talk about numbers, right? And this is what I call the freedom number. The very first thing, the very first core need that you have to address is knowing what freedom looks like. This is the freedom number. It's right here. Here's the tool. Again, this is free, okay? You can come over here and let me walk you through what the freedom number is. What the freedom number is it is the number of units that you need to have in order to be free from whatever it is that you want. What happened was when I was at my corporate gig and I had one of those days of self-doubt, I'm driving into the office and I'm thinking like, I'm never going to be able to replace my income. How is that even possible? I mean, the number just was so large. And what I think that people forget sometimes is that when we talk about the monthly income coming in, lots of people love to talk about, I just want to make $10,000 a month of monthly income. Well, I hear that number so many times. I just want $10,000 a month. And yeah, that's a great number. The problem is that you need more than $10,000, right? Like $10,000 just of money coming in the door is not going to solve your problem because you still have to pay expenses and all this other stuff. I saw I'm not trying to bash a guru here, but it will come across as that. I see a guy on Instagram. I really don't know who he is. He's a real estate guru. And, I'm seeing more and more and more of his messages. I don't know why you get them too, but like he's ramping it up. He's showing me his car collection and all the other stuff that gurus like to do. And in there, he's listing out his monthly income on this Instagram reel. And he's like, hey, $120,000 a month, I don't know, $150,000 a month, whatever the numbers are, it's all right there. And, it makes you question like, okay, well, is that your profit or is that the revenue coming in the door? Because there's a difference, right? Revenue is a vanity number. How much are you keeping? So people love to talk about the revenue coming in the door. And what I want to focus on is how many of these units do I need to sell in order to gain my freedom? And that's what happened to me on that day driving into work where I had the self-doubt. I'm thinking like, this is never going to happen. This number is too dang big. So then I thought about it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How many loans do I need to have in order to gain my freedom? So let's just go with this desired income. Let's just say that the amount of money, not that I want to bring in the door in a given month, is $10,000. Let's say that what I want is $10,000 that I bring home in my pocket. There's a difference because of expenses, right? So ultimately, what I'm able to do is I'm able to come here and yes, you have to make an account to do the assessment. Again, it's free. There's no charge. There's not going to be a charge. It's supportive of the book. The book is supporting this. Okay, so you enter your desired income. And so let's just say I want to make $10,000. I want to bring home $10,000. It says, do you know your profit margin? And what is your profit margin? Well, that's your financial statement. Your income at the very top is always 100%. The bottom line number is, a number, let's just say that you brought in $100,000 at the top in the month, but at the end of the day, you kept $30,000. Your profit margin there is 30%. Most profit and loss statements, it shows you the calculation, and if it doesn't, it's simple. What's your profit divided by what is your income? If you don't know it or you're new and you're like, I have no idea, I'm new, I don't even know what this could be, I can tell you that most real estate investment companies are anywhere from 25 to 35% profit margin. Okay, so you can use that number in its absence. But if you know your profit margin, you just say yes. It says, well, what is your profit margin? You throw in the number there. Again, I'm putting in 30% there as a placeholder, but maybe yours is different. Put in what yours is. If you don't know how to calculate it, it's showing you how to calculate it here. What's your quarterly revenue? You can replace quarterly with monthly. What's your profit? It's going to calculate your profit margin for you down here at 30%. But let's just say that, yeah, our profit margin is 30%. And then we get to revenue per unit. And in real estate investing, per unit can be anything. Maybe you're an apartment operator. Well, a unit could be a door. Okay. Maybe you're a land investor. A unit could be a loan. Think about that, a loan, or it could be a lot. Maybe you're a home flipper, house flipper. That number is going to be different too, right? Whatever a unit of scale is for you, that's what we're calculating. So in my case here, where I'm with land, I was focusing on loans. So I had $10,000 as my desired income in this hypothetical. I'm making 30%. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take my average loan amount. So in my case, my average loan is around like $265 a month. That means I needed 126 units. I needed 126 pieces of land sold in order to gain me freedom. You know what happens when you have that clarity like that is no longer, number one, are you guessing when's the right time to get out of your business or out of your job to go into this business full time. You now know the amount of sales that you need in order to be free. And knowing that is freedom all by itself, because knowing that number allows you to now track it so that you know as you're getting closer and closer what that goal is. When you have a goal that you're working for, you will achieve it. You will. Think about the power of this. Just by knowing the number, you can take a piece of paper. Where's my paper? You can take that piece of paper. You can write down the goal, 126, right here. Put it on the wall. Every day that you make a sale, you can go put the next one up and update the number. Do you remember those fundraiser like scales where they have the fundraiser thing at the top and they go in, they color it all the way up, color. You can do that. You can track down to your success. My son is a real estate investor. He does what I do on his own. He has a goal. I've told him, hey, your goal is this many units. You get this many units, you've achieved your goal. Guess what? You're free, baby. That is step one. If you don't know that, I'm telling you how to calculate it right now. I'm giving you an easy win in the IPP. It says the screen is frozen. Well, that's not a good thing, is it? Yeah, the screen is frozen now that I'm looking at it. Let's see. Oh, Chase, here we go. Look at that. I just went on a whole rant and missed the whole thing. Look, here's the assessment. Sorry about that. I'm going to go it again. You can take the free assessment here, or up here you got the freedom number. See, this is technology, man. This is all technology. I blame the technology. Yeah, okay, there it is. There it is. Okay, sorry about that. I went on a rant. I should have been looking here. I should have been looking. I'm sorry that I put you through that, but hopefully you can see it now. You can go calculate that. And look, I'll just calculate it again because I like it. $10,000 is your monthly income. Guess what? Do you know your profit margin? Yes, let's go with 30%. Guess what? Let's say I'm making 265. Boom, I need 126 units. And it's showing me that my required sales per month is that number. But look, what if I change something? What if I start becoming more profitable? I need less units. What if I raise my monthly note to that? Boom, 97 number, 97. My question to you is, do you think that you can do whatever you do 97 times, 126 times? If you've done it once, you can do it that many times. If you've done it once, you can do it 126 times. It's simple math. It's the same thing that my editor told me about this, writing this book, A.J. Harper. She says in her book, and she told me, if you want to write a book, it's simple math. I'm like, what do you mean? She said, it's simple. 50,000 words. If you can write 1,000 words a day, in 50 days you have a book. They're not beautiful words. They're not polished words. They're words. And then you go through the process of working with the editor and going through all the proofreading and polishing this thing and editing this book 26 times. True story. 18 months. Okay? 18 months. And today's his birthday. That's why I'm celebrating today, because this is that contribution. If you can do it one time, you can do it 97 times, 126 times, whatever it is. But to me, I always found that when I have this number here, that I'm able to go back and just simple, and I'm going to bring it up again, that I can just go in there and here it is. When I can just go in there and make this calculation, it just brings me clarity and confidence that I can do that. But if you told me that I had to generate $33,000 a month of income before I could quit my job, I'm probably going to feel defeated. 126 of these, I got it, no problem. And this is a clarity that I had sitting in my office at my corporate 300 job. It's documented. That story is documented in the book, because what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to show you that at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to get some understanding of what freedom looks like. That is core step number one. Because then after that, all you need is to rinse and repeat until you get to that number. And that's it. And I'm telling you, it is possible. But I also can tell you that the number of units is easier to do than to go after the revenue goal. The revenue goal is depressing. The number of units, to me, I found to be exciting because I could just check it off. Getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. 10 to go, 9 to go, 5 to go. Accomplished. That's what you're working for. I'm looking at the comments right now. It says, couldn't you do bigger deals and do a lot less deals. It's math, right? It's math. It just depends because, can you do a bigger deal? Well, some people will tell you can do bigger deals. Like for me, I work in land, and the thing about land is that while there are bigger deals, and I've done bigger deals, some of those bigger deals turn out to be cash, and what I wanted was terms. Okay, so now I'm in the cash flipping business, which is fine, right? But you could do the math. But now I'm dependent not on monthly income coming in, which kind of brings me to my next topic here. I want you to look at this chart, and I'm going to keep talking about bigger deals here, but I want you to look at this chart right here. See, the thing about this chart that I'd like for you to consider is that this is, there's this concept of passive income. And in the book, I basically say that I disagree with this concept of passive income. And I admit it, I still today struggle by calling it passive income. But let's be honest, passive income really doesn't exist. What we're really tracing for is reoccurring positive cash flow. And specifically, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to generate reoccurring positive cash flow. The key word there is, well, there's a couple of them. Reoccurring is a key word. I want it there every single month, okay? Positive. I cannot lose money on every single deal. I cannot lose money. And you'll be surprised at how many times I run into people who are like looking at buying a house and they're trying to make it cash flow because they want to do a deal. And then they go out there and they're like, well, I'm going to lose $100 a month, but I'm going to get appreciation. You cannot achieve your goals by losing money every single month. It's not possible. Okay. So I want positive cash flow. And what I want is I want it with less and less of my personal energy. So if you look at the far right side of that picture where its personal effort is 100%, well, that 100% and the positive cash flow being zero, that's where most people are with their day jobs, right? They're stuck there. And what you want to do is you want to move more and more of the work to being less and less by you. Hence, you've got a team. But you also want more and more of that revenue coming in to be positive monthly or regular cash flow. You want it reoccurring. And that's where we get into certain people are focused on cash flips. And look, there's nothing wrong with cash flips until a market changes or something changes, and then you're dependent on that, and then you're all for naught, right? So the calculator is there to be able to help you determine what your freedom number is, and you can play with that and see, hey, this is a better deal or not a better deal, so that you can put your strategy behind, your efforts. And I think that a lot of real estate investors, I'm just going to go bigger than that. I think a lot of business owners do not focus on strategy enough. And see, what strategy is I think a lot of people think that strategy is like some big fancy document that we sit down with a room of people and we write a strategy book. This is not one. Hundreds of pages that we put on a shelf and we take off and then we dust it off and there's our strategy. Well, that's not strategy. It could be, but strategy at its core is basically deciding on the things that we are going to do and the things that we're not going to do, right? It's the things that, I don't know why I'm not full screen here. Let's see. Ever since I shared my screen, I am not. Like, it's just me. Wonder why. I don't know how to fix that either. So you might have to be stuck with me like this because, look, this is live and I don't know how to fix it. I don't think it matters either because, well, it's just us. It's just us. Okay. I don't know how to fix that part, but it's really, really weird that it's like that. What happens if I do? See, this is where it gets bad. What happens if I do This is never a good thing to say in the middle of a recording. What happens if I just do this? All right, I'm just going to keep on going because I don't know. I don't know why it's like that. Maybe we'll figure it out. So the thing is that, what you don't want to end up doing is having to reinvent the wheel every single month. That's really what we're trying to avoid. And so your bigger deals, they can get you there faster as long as they're reoccurring, right? Because when they're not reoccurring, that's where you're going to have some problems there that's going to be more challenging for you, okay? So let's just take a look at where we are. We're using the IPP to serve as our compass. We're understanding that there's different levels of priorities and that we can only really focus on one priority at a time. There's this concept, and I talk about it in the book as well. It's called the theory of constraints. It's really made popular by a book called The Goal. It's a fantastic book if you haven't read it, The Goal. And the thing about The Goal is that when you're talking about the theory of constraints, basically what you begin to realize is that your business is only capable of achieving a certain amount of output based on its weakest link. And you've heard this whole weakest link theory, but if you were on wherever you are, like I know Scott Bossman was on earlier today, he's in Wisconsin. If we were to take a chain link fence or a linked chain from Wisconsin all the way to where I am in Florida, and he was to pull on his end, I was to pull on my end, it would break somewhere in the weakest link, which is probably closer to him because, well, it's Wisconsin, not Florida. It's not going to break down here. So then he's going to have to go out there and he's going to fix the weakest link. And then once he's fixed it, we pull it out again. And wherever it breaks, this time it's probably Florida, then I got to go fix it. And we keep fixing this chain until all of the weakest links are solved, until the next weakest link appears. So let me give an example. In my business, for example, let's just say that due diligence is there and due diligence has a problem. The output of due diligence is only, of the due diligence team, let's say is, 2 properties a day. Okay, so their capacity there is 2 properties a day, but I've got 3 properties a day coming in on the front door as accepted offers. I now have 2 a day going out of due diligence. Guess what? I have a due diligence problem. It is my weakest link. Not saying that the people are the weakest. I'm just saying that the system or the process is the weakest link. I need to be able to go and fix that weakest link. Okay, so I need to go identify that weakest link, fix it, and this is where the IPP comes in, because if what you're seeing is that, hey, we're not able to kind of get through the deal flow that we need to get through, then you go address that situation. Maybe your next weakest link is with your profitability. You go address that next situation, and over time, you make these links stronger and stronger and stronger. And this whole concept of the theory of constraints is going to continue to build over time, okay? Okay. So how do we now take this concept and of reoccurring positive cash flow without needing me, my personal effort? Well, what I want to do is I want to look at the stuff that I'm good at. And this is kind of the theory of constraints, right? Because if there's things that I'm doing that I'm not good at, I need to get rid of it. I need to stop doing it. And if I stop doing those things, then I can free up to the stuff that I'm better at, and I can give it to other people that are better at it than me. So if you've ever been to my website, scotttodd.net, if you've ever been there, if you were to have gone there, I don't know, about 18 months ago when I started writing this book, it was disgusting, right? I'll admit it. It was terrible because it really didn't matter to me. I don't even know why I had it. I've always had it. I've had it for, 10, 15 years, something like that. I think I got it in 2013. Yeah, okay. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I wanted to be an author. I don't know. So I went off and had this website, but it was never really a priority for me. And then as I started writing the book, basically I was told, hey, you got to get that thing up to speed. You got to spend some time, and it's hideous. And I agree. So I told my assistant one day, I said, hey, I need you to find me a web person. I need somebody who can turn this thing into something that's I don't know, lovely, something better than what it is. And my tendency would have been to jump into it. And here, I'm just going to go do it. But I'm not a web person. Okay. Could I do it? I could do something. In fact, I did something. It was terrible. Right. It was terrible. So what I did was I said, go find me somebody. And she said to me, she said, now she's my executive assistant. She said to me, I've made websites before. And I said, you have? She's like, yeah. I said, are they any good? She goes, I think so. I said, show me. As she's showing me, she's lighting up. Her eyes are getting bigger. She is on fire, like on fire. Okay. And she's really excited. And this was a Friday. It was a Friday before, I think it was a Friday before, yes, right before Labor Day. The Friday before Labor Day. And I said, all right, why don't you take a stab at it? Like, what do I have to lose, right? It's already terrible. I'm like, go for it. So Monday was a holiday. Tuesday, we got on our daily huddle. I'm not even expecting anything from a website. Like, I don't know anything about it. And she says to me, she's like, hey, I've got the website done. I'm like, you do? She goes, yeah. I'm like, it's done? She's like, well, it's done for you to like approve the colors and everything. I'm like, show me. And I looked at it, I was like, holy cow, this is really good. Like, I didn't know that this was you. Do you enjoy this type of work? And she's like, yeah, I do enjoy this kind of work. I didn't know. See, and when we build work, a lot of times what we've always been trained to do, and we got this from our corporate gigs, is we're trained to assign work to somebody because they're in a department. You know, if a tax bill comes in and we look at it, we're like, tax bill, this looks like accounting. We give it to the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper could be terrible at taxes. They might just be good at bookkeeping, but we give them the tax bill and we give them this because it looks like it's in that department. Or we give somebody this because it looks like it's in the marketing department. They could be terrible at that one individual thing, but they could be good at something else. There's an organization called Strategic Coach. Dan Sullivan, I'm trying to see, I don't think I have a Dan Sullivan book here, but Dan Sullivan is the author of Who Not How, 10X is Easier Than 2X. Great books. There's this organization that he runs, Strategic Coach, and within the Strategic Coach group, basically what they do is they align the work to you, not based on your role. They align it based on your skill set, your unique ability. That's Dan Sullivan's word for it. I call it your zone of excellence. So as we're building work, and this is really in the order level stuff, we're not necessarily worrying about this when we're surviving, but what we're trying to do here is when we're starting to think about how we do things, role alignment becomes very, very important. Okay, so role alignment is basically saying, if you're good at something, just because that's not necessarily your department, I'm still going to give it to you. I'm going to give you to my assistant, I'm going to give you the website, my website, you're now in charge of everything that goes on there because, well, you light up for that work. So in the strategic coach world, you could have somebody whose job is to do human resources and to do like recruiting, I should say, recruiting for human resources and interviews, whose also job is to provide support for their clients. See, jobs are not necessarily based on roles, but jobs are based on what lights you up. So think about that for a second. What if the work that you did in your business is the stuff that lights you up? What if the stuff that your team members did is the stuff that lights them up? I've talked about this in so many different ways, and I'll share it with you what I have in the book, is what if you aligned an activity to a love, okay, or loathe? And this is taken right from the book. And essentially, see, you guys can't see this. Let me see if I can. There we go. I'm just going to go like that. See? Until I figure out this little situation. We're like limping along here. So be it. So what if we asked not only of ourselves, but our team members, what is it that you do that you don't like? What do you do that I ask you to do that you're no good at? If you worked for my organization, I came to you one day and I said, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we play this little game? You tell me what you're no good at. that you do that I ask you to do, what are you no good at? Just write it down and you give it to me on the piece of paper. You're going to be like, I'm not giving this guy anything, man. This guy's trying to fire me. See, this is where trust comes in. But what if you find the stuff that your people are good at and that's what they do, even if it's not the typical role? Okay? So what if you had somebody on your team that's good at due diligence and they don't necessarily fit into the role of due diligence, but they're really good at making decisions about due diligence? Or what if you had somebody who's really, really good at accounting, but they're also good at building teams or managing, resources? See, now we're changing the dynamic of our organization, and it's not necessarily with more people, but it's with alignment of the roles to where people are the best, right? And that's what we're really trying to go do. That's what we're trying to build within our organization here. And this is where things like role alignment comes in. And this is stuff that we get to later on once our core needs are met of deal flow and sales and profit. We cannot worry about necessarily aligning roles to people's best talents when we have a capital problem. But I also make the case in the book early on where I encourage you to take this book, and it's going to be on the website too, but there's going to be the ability for you to buy copies for your team, electronic version, of course. But when you do that, basically, I say share this book with your team. And the reason I say to share it with your team is because while you're taking the IPP assessment, this is not only about you. They're on this journey with you. And imagine for a minute that you're able to tap into them and say, hey, look, this is important to me. This is important to our company. You're on this journey with me. So what I want to do is once a month, I want us all to take an IPP assessment. They're free, right? Like, you don't even need to go create an account on a website. It's literally in the book, right? There's 25 questions. And the thing about it is that you just say to them, hey, we're going to answer these 25 questions because I want to see where you guys are. Because I think our core need is this. What do you think? And I did this with that IT company that I was telling you about. Is I gave them a version of the IPP assessment that was modified to that company, which you can modify this framework. The concept remains the same. The words might be a little bit different, but you can build it to be whatever you want it to be. You can modify it. So I gave them this and I said, hey, I'm not going to tell you what I think what I think our vital need is. You guys tell me. And it was amazing to see how people from different parts of the company had different things. And we were all on a Zoom call together as we reviewed it. And I said, okay, Chris, what do you think? And Chris was telling me what he thought. And Mark, what do you think? Bryce, what do you think? So they start telling me what they thought. I was like, wow, see, different spots have different views. So while I thought I was here, everybody else thought I was still in like the deal flow level. And then that was kind of an alert for me. Wow. Okay. Now everybody, let's go attack this. So now what you have is you have a shared language with your team too. So that when a core need is important and it's lacking, let's say capital, you don't have a capital system and you don't have the capital to do your next deal. I would tell my team, I don't have the capital to do the next deal. We have a capital problem. We need capital. Let's go get capital. So now everybody on that team goes and gets capital. Think about the power for that. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to go out and they're going to create a capital network, but do you think that they're thinking differently when they understand that we're all in this boat together? It's no longer shouldered by you. It's no longer shouldered by you thinking that you're the only one here, even though you have a team of VAs. All of a sudden you start to see that these VAs and these people are all on your team. They make you better. Okay? That's really what I want you to go do. I want you to leverage that component of it so that you build that. How are we doing on time? We've got about 50 minutes to go. And I still have some things I want to share. So I think we're doing right here on time. When we're talking about, when we are talking about profitability, okay, and I've kind of bounced around here a little bit because I do want to go back and talk about profitability a little bit. We've talked about deal flow. We talked about those components. We talked about skipping around, going to order when you're not ready for it. We've talked about profitability, how there's 5 levels of profitability. Are you paying off debt? Are you leveraging debt the right way? We only want to use debt when it's going to generate more revenue for us. We don't want to go use debt to run credit card bills up or, ad spend. That's not the right use of debt long term. Only you can decide what's right for your business, but I can tell you that that's not what you really want to do. We want to talk about, getting the most out of each transaction with our customers. We also want to look at cash reserves. Do we have enough money to hold back 3 months, 6 months, whatever level you want? I'm going to tell you need 3 months of cash reserves. Maybe it's 6 because you don't know what's going to happen. Profit first falls within this profit level. I would be unjust if I didn't talk about profit first and the power that it has on every single business. I'm not paid to talk about profit first. I can just tell you I'm a believer in it. And for those of you that are interested, there is a Profit First for Real Estate Investors. It's by David Richter. Okay. Great book. Okay. So if Profit First, if you want to know how to do it for real estate investing, you can go here. I actually also have a free class on the Investor Ninja site, which is going to be changing in 2026. But Investor Ninjas, there's a class on there. It's free, like how I use Profit First in my land investing business. So if you're in land investing, I've gone a little bit lower. No matter where you are in real estate investing, David Richter's book, really, really good. Okay. Okay, man, I'm loading you guys up on books today. But these are books that I find to be valuable. I would be, okay, there we go. So there's that one. Let's talk about this IPP again. I want to show you something on the IPP. And that's right here. Let's go here. I got to make this. If there's one thing that's annoying here is this whole thing. And you know what? I guarantee you there's a little switch somewhere that's not it that would solve this entire problem, but oh well. Okay, let's talk about this thing right here. I don't know why that's moving on me. There we go. Okay, let's talk about this thing right here. So here's the IPP. Here's another explanation of the IPP. And so what you'll notice is that there's 3 levels on the bottom: deal flow, profit, and order. Deal flow, profit, and order, okay? Those 3 are the core 3. And you'll notice that next to the side over there on the left, I say get, okay? It's right there, get. And the 2 in the red up there are the give. Let's talk about this. There is this tendency that we want the business to be big, but oftentimes our business just lives within the 3 bottom levels: the deal flow, the profit, and the order. There's nothing wrong with living there. Nothing wrong with living in those 3. And remember, you can just go up and down all day long. Okay. Regularly, you're going up and down. You're never settling into any one of them. But at some point in time, maybe your business is growing and you want it to be bigger. In fact, I almost didn't write about the last section there, which is the legacy. But at the end of the day, real estate is all about legacy. So I felt like I had to. But the thing about the legacy is that, the thing about the top sections of there, that's where we're actually focusing on giving. Okay, we're not focusing on giving in the bottom sections. We're focusing on giving in the top sections. And when we're talking about giving, it's not always about just giving money. It's really about thinking about our contribution to society in a different way. And it's sometimes unusual to think about it from this perspective. And as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with you never getting to those giving stages. There's nothing wrong if your business never gets there. That's fine, because some businesses will always be in that lower range, always bouncing between those 3, because that's, frankly, that's where it's going to be. But when you can go and you can say, hey, look, we've taken care of the bottom 3. And now we want to get to the stage where we actually give and make a difference to our communities. There's so much power in that. And that's what I kind of hope that I see the change in the world here, is that in this book, I'm presenting to you a future that is possible beyond what you can see today. I used to do like some, for one of the coaching companies, I used to do some one-on-one coaching, and in there we would do strategic calls. And in those strategic calls, we would say to you, okay, what does 1 year look like? What does 2 years look like? What does 3 years look like? And at the 3 year mark, we'd say, well, okay, your passive income, oh, I shouldn't say that. I said I wasn't going to do it. Your monthly, your reoccurring positive cash flow needs are met. Your needs are met. What are you doing? What does life look like? And people would just look at you every time. What does life look like when all your needs are met? First of all, it's a hard concept to think about. What? My needs are met? Wow. My team runs the business? Wow. Is that even possible? Because, see, we don't think about that. We might dream about it. So what do you want to do? What does life look like? And I listened to people, and they had some very large goals. I've heard some crazy large goals, and they're really, really exciting to, it was personal to each individual person. They had some cool things to share. But after they got over the initial shock, they were able to kind of get and think about what that future looks like. And it's really kind of cool when you see what people are doing in real estate when they get to these upper levels. So let's talk about this. Transformation orientation. Okay, so all of our lower level needs are met. And now we're starting to ask questions like, does your business benefit clients through a transformation beyond the transaction? So the scenario I give you in here is, what if you had a community of people that were learning together, who they were kind of led by some, like one of your customers, to get more college or some education, personal finance education or something like that. What if you were able to hold some sort of training program for your customers? Does that sound like something that, like we do with Landmodo? Yeah. What I do now? Yeah. See, it's beyond that. It's beyond just a transaction. It's for transformational. So if you're saying, yeah, we kind of have that. Mission motivation. What happens when your employees are not driven by money, but they're driven by the mission? Waking up tomorrow to go do right for their customers. There's lots of organizations that are doing that, and that's a powerful mission. Because when your employees are waking up tomorrow, not worrying about their own finances, but also worrying about, like, trying to figure out how they can make life better for your customers, that's powerful. My land investing business, we talked to the team and we're like, hey, what are we doing here? We talked to the whole team, like, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why, like, we have enough. Why keep going? Literally, we have enough. We're good. Why keep going? And somebody said, well, man, we're making dreams reality. I said, what do you mean? They said, we are making people's dreams come true. We're helping them to buy real estate that they never thought they'd be able to buy. I'm like, wow. So what's our goal? Like, what's our goal? Oh man, we want to own, like, we want to be able to finance, pick the number. It was like a 9-figure number of loans that they wanted, that they were like, let's get this. That means we've sold all this land and we're helping people to buy the real estate that they want. That's transformational. That's mission motivated, because it's no longer about how do I survive? It's about, man, we're waking up tomorrow on a mission to change the planet. The entire team can get behind that, and it's motivating as you've never believed. But if you try to jump to that before you're ready, you won't get there, because you haven't met the core needs that are below it that support that type of level of an organization. My favorite one is dream alignment. And the thing about dream alignment is that this is where your employees have aligned their individual dreams with what the company can help them fulfill. And it's not my job to fulfill my employees' dreams or to make them come true. but it sure does help when our company comes together and supports each other towards their goal. So let me give you an example. My assistant, I've referenced her before. My assistant tells me one day, she's like, hey, my husband and I would like to buy a house. I'm like, wow, cool. Where are you in the goal? And she tells me, and I said, hey, let's keep touch with you and your accomplishment of that goal. She said, okay. So then another employee comes in and we ask them, hey, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And they say, well, I just want to pay off my car. Okay, great. How much you got? When are you going to be able to do that? What's it going to take for you to do that? What happens is when you get to these lower needs that are met, I'll bring it up again. When you get to these ones that are in green, when they're met, okay? I'm trying to get it centered again for you. When those lower ones in green are met, and you can focus on, I don't know, your employees and your customers, the business gets super fun because now you're celebrating each other. When my assistant came in one day and said, we put a contract on the house. Yes. When another one says, I want to pay off my car, and we work together with them to say, hey, what's your goal? How do we make that accomplished? How many units do you need to sell in order to pay off your car? See, it applies back to them. How many units does it need to take to do that? You're changing lives, and not just yours and not just your customers, but it comes from you nailing the stuff on the bottom. My assistant tells me that by February 1st, they're moving into their house. Are we going to have a party? Yeah. They're not here. They're not in America. That person is in the Philippines. We will celebrate for them accomplishing their goal, because that's the unity. That's the dream alignment that we have there. There's some land investors that are, maybe Try and Quinn. They are featured in this book. They are featured in the section on complementary network. And the core need of complementary network, what it says is, does your business seek to collaborate with vendors, including competitors, who serve the same customer base in order to improve the customer experience, yes or no? And I spotlighted them because whether you know them or not, or you know their story, the VUs are very, very good at building this complementary network of people that they like to work with. They will routinely travel to other land investors across the country. They'll get on a plane and travel somewhere to Florida or to Texas. They live in California. They'll go travel there because they just want to know other people. They want to know them. They want to know how they can help them in terms of wholesale, where they're working. They become friends with them. They build a network that says, hey, if I don't have this, somebody else will. Here's how you do it. I like to think that my own organization with Landmodo is that same similar concept, because notice what it says. Does your business seek to collaborate with vendors, including competitors? Every person on Landmodo is technically a competitor of my own business, but I never really thought about it from that perspective. It was really about helping dreams come true for the people that we can serve together. That's the whole piece. Once we have those levels met within the impact level, now we move on to legacy. And within legacy, we're talking about continuity, okay? Community continuity. Does your clients feverishly defend, support, and help the business? Intentional leadership turns. Do you have people who can take over the business for when you are done, who can operate this thing? Are you building the next level of talent? Who is going to replace you in your business? Or is it just going to be that when something happens to you, that your family just sells off your assets and that's it? Or is this a business that goes on forever? You may or may not know that Mark Podolsky, he is also known as the Land Geek. He's written 2 books. One is Dirt Rich and Dirt Rich 2. Unfortunately, I don't have Dirt Rich printed. I have it on my Kindle, but I do have this one. And the thing about Mark is Mark and I are also business partners in an investment company. And one day Mark calls me up and he says, hey, we're just talking. It's a Saturday. We're just talking. And he says to me, he's like, hey, let me ask you a question. You ever think about our exit plan for this? And I was like, yeah. I was writing a book, funny enough. I said, yeah, I have thought about it. And he said, what is it, like private equity? I was like, oh, no, I don't think private equity, no. He's like, what is it? I said, well, you and I are partners, right? He's like, yeah. I said, why don't we get new partners that replace us? And then they get new partners that replace them. And our company lives on forever and ever and ever. Why does it have to end? And he's like, wow, I've never really thought about that before. And that's the whole concept here, is when we can stop worrying about some of the things that we have in the lower levels, like capital, because we build capital systems and we build marketing systems and we build sales systems down in the lower structure. When we stop having to worry about that stuff and now we can focus on the higher end stuff, all of a sudden the business changes, because it's no longer about me. It's now I'm driving a legacy. I'm the steward of my company today with the intent that somebody else will replace me in the future. A partner of the future will replace me. Who are they? We have people in mind. Who replaces them? Not my problem. That's the next generations, right? But that's when we talk about, intentional leadership turn. What is that plan? One of my favorite in this one is also the heart-based promoters. And heart-based promoters basically says, is the organization promoted by individuals inside and outside the organization without the need for direction? One of my favorite stories of the book comes from this section. And basically it is a mobile home park operator. They have, I think, 17 parks or something. And what they do is on a regular basis, they do a day of service. And the day of service is where the entire team comes out. They get a bunch of team members from the corporate office, and they get, I'm trying to see, it's right here. So they get the corporate office out there, and they also get, let's see, we got the corporate office. Something just happened to my computer over here. I'm wondering if the whole thing is shutting down on me. Let's see. Where is it? It is not that one. Let's go here. It's about Helen. Okay, so what happened was all of these individuals, they went out from the corporate office. They got people within the community who would also help Helen. And Helen's living in a mobile home. And she's 93 years old. And they all show up to help Helen on this given day. People who live in the community and also volunteers from the corporate office. They go out there and they have the manager. She goes up to Helen's door on a Saturday and she knocks on the door. Helen gives out the cry, who is it? Hey, it's, Sandy. Okay, what? She's all nervous because the manager's there on a Saturday. What's happening? She opens the door, fidgets with it. And basically what happens is they tell her, hey, listen, we're here to help you. We're going to replace your ramp out here. And we're going to take away the bushes in front of your house and clean up your place. And Helen's like, I can't afford this. And they're like, no. You're going to get a new deck, a new ramp. It's all on us. Don't worry about it. We have it. The crew's out there. They're doing all the work all day long. Helen's like peeking out the window. She can't believe all these people are out there. Finally, it comes time for her to go out there. They bring her out. And she walks out there, and there's a whole new deck, a new ramp that she can walk down with her walker. And the path is clear so she can get to the street. And the trees are cut back, and the bushes are clean, and the place looks spotless. And Helen, with her walker, walks to the street, and she looks at the house, and she begins to cry. And she basically says, I can't thank you guys enough, because now when my family comes to see me in my final days, they will remember what a lovely house I lived in. Think about the power that we have the ability of growing into. Think about the power when we nail these bigger things down. Think about the power when you're focusing not just on you and your business and surviving, but getting to those upper thresholds. This is what's possible when we start to focus on the next thing. The reason that I think this book is so important to you is because I don't want you to get lost. I don't want you to give up on your goal. I don't want you to get lost in the trees and get frustrated and let that self-doubt creep in. That's not the stuff that I want you to do. What I want you to do is I want you to survive it. Because when you survive it, then you're going to be able to go back in there and make that long-term contribution to the people that you were meant to serve. You're going to be able to change the lives that you're able to change. Because you see, while you might think that it's always going to be about just the hustle and the creation of this cash, there will come a point in time in which you can now propel it bigger and then make the change. So part of this whole framework too is not just about what I need today to survive, but it's ultimately what I can become in the future. And as we get into some of the last stories of the book, we talk about Helen and the impact that had on Helen, but we also talk about the DeBartolo family. And maybe you know that name, maybe you don't. But back in the 80s, they were very heavy into malls. DeBartolo owned the San Francisco 49ers, and he owned a basketball team, 49ers football team. And basically, he sold his mall business, his real estate portfolio, which he got from his father. He sold it to Simon Malls or Simon Properties, which is now a big REIT. And the family now takes their income, the cash that they have, and they're very, very prominent in their contributions around our home area, which is Tampa. So I tell the story about how they contributed to a high school being built and the compromise or what that meant to the community. And that's the thing is, how do we take what we can't see today and just understand that there is a roadmap for us to get there? You may not think that your little business, your little investment business today could do something like that. But when you get rid of those self-doubts and you keep working on it, well, of course it can. It has to. Not because it's required to, but because you're not here just to satisfy your own needs. I know that. You're here to make a difference. I'm here to make a difference. And when we continue to think about it like that, we have a duty to get rid of the trolls. We have a duty to do the best we can do, to build the best business we can build. Because that's the best way to change lives. Lives of our customers, our own life, lives of our employees, being able to see them, not buy the house for them, but to celebrate with them and to be the leader that helps them see what's possible. That's the transformation that I hope that this book will help you see in the world so that you can make that transformation too, so that you can help those employees. Also, because isn't that fun? Would that be fun? And I can tell you that those things are all possible through real estate. Now, I've been teasing multiple times this box here from the get-go. And it is true that it says biscotti cookies. Biscotti cookies. I'm getting tired. How long has this been? 2 hours, 40, 30, 35 minutes? Wow. Here's the thing. From the time I was a kid, I just wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to have my own business. I don't know why, but that's just what I wanted to do. And I've had a lot of little businesses along the way. If you can name it, I probably have had it. I probably have done it. I mean, I gave you evidence tonight of all these real estate ventures that I've done. You can see that. But some of my first like childhood memories were doing business. Okay. Like I would go door to door selling, newspapers and all this other stuff. But at 6 years old, I'm sitting there and I admired my grandfather like you wouldn't believe. This is my mom's dad. He was a Nabisco truck driver. He drove a truck of cookies. And he was a smoker. And I loved talking to him. I love that guy. He was my biggest supporter. I talked about my wife being my biggest supporter. Well, before she came along, it was Grandpa. And the thing about Grandpa is he was a smoker, and he would sit there. He was not allowed to smoke inside the house. He smoked outside, and he would throw the cigarette butts out, just out into the yard. And he would go out there and he'd throw these butts out, and nobody said anything to him until they became unsightly. And then my grandmother would say, "Howard, pick up those damn butts." To which he'd grumble and go do it. But then I realized that Grandpa had a problem. Grandpa needed an ashtray. So 6-year-old Scott, realizing that, hey, I can solve this problem, I went to my grandmother and I said, "Hey, Grandma, I want the peanut jar." And she's like, "What do you want that for?" And I said, "Because I want to make Grandpa an ashtray." Now, you have to understand something. Back in the 70s, Planters peanuts came in a glass jar. I'm opening my box. You can't really see it. Take this out. Throw the box on the ground. Planters peanuts came in a glass jar, just like this. And in fact, if you look, I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't think you can. You can't. There's an actual Planters peanut guy on here. It's glass. Okay? Really cool. I said to Grandma, "Grandma, I want the jar." And she said, "Why do you want the jar?" I said, "I'm going to make Grandpa an ashtray." And she said, "Okay." So she took the jar and she dumped what was left in here. This isn't the original one, by the way. She dumped it in there. She gave me the jar. I took some aluminum foil and I put the aluminum foil down in there. Okay? It's kind of hard, little hands, right? Put it in there. Wrapped it around. I went to Grandpa, no lid. Went to Grandpa and I said, "Grandpa, I made you something. Here." He said, "What is that?" I said, "This is an ashtray. You needed to put your cigarette butts in so that you don't get into trouble." And of course, he was so satisfied. He was so excited. He was so proud of me. And he said, "Son, you're going to do something big." Throughout my life growing up, every entrepreneurial venture that I had, he was there. He was the supporter. He was the promoter. He was the sponsor. He was the guy behind me saying, "You can do it because you're going to do something big." Eventually, like all things, Grandpa passed. But my wife became that supporter. Not the one that's saying, "You're going to do something big, but you can do it. Go do it. Be that person." But that's the thing, is you can do something big. See, this story about Grandpa isn't really about Grandpa. It's not even about me. It's really about you, because at the end of the day, you have the capability to do something big. That's within you. I saw in the chat today about the self-doubt. We all have it. Whether we all admit it or not, we all have it. We're all in the self-doubt club. The difference is acknowledging it and doing it anyway. And you can do that. You have to do it. But you don't have to do it just because, well, it's going to write you a check in the future or make a business that you can survive on. You have to do it because there's people in this world that are counting on you to be the leader that you need to be. to help them. And the IPP is the compass. It's the thing that will help you know what it is that you need to fix next. Does it just magically solve a problem? No. But the entire concept of the book and the entire concept of the IPP is it opens up your mind to see what's possible when you can't see that for yourself. To challenge you to think about things in a different way so that you can go back and do something big. To go back and to build on your capabilities. And when you're self-doubting yourself, we're going to do it anyway. And so if you haven't, I would just say to you, I think that you need the Fix This Next for Real Estate Investors book. If you haven't already purchased it, I think it's a great resource. I gave it the best. And I know that it's something that you need to do to follow. And it's something that I hope that you'll refer back to when you're stuck. How do we get out of this? When you're stuck and you're challenging or you're self-doubting yourself, boom, we have this. It's designed to be evergreen. It's not tactics. It's not tactics. It's the framework that you need to be successful. And I know because it's the framework that I used in order to get myself out of my corporate job. I don't really know how LinkedIn works, but I can tell you that my editor went out today and put on my LinkedIn page an announcement on, I think when they mention you kind of get mentioned in there too. But she put in there that when her and Mike Michalowicz wrote their version of Fix This Next, they thought it was great. Her words to me was in this video is, his is better. And I did that for you. So I hope that you'll take it. I hope that you'll continue to take the assessments, loop your team in there, make your team a part of what you're doing, of your journey. And I can tell you that in doing so, you'll be rewarded with the entire experience that's not just about cash. It's not just about the freedom that you're going to get. It's about building a system of real estate that will move you to where you want to be to enable you to make the changes that you want to make in this planet. And with that, I'm going to cut it short of just my 3-hour mark. I hope that you found today beneficial, and I hope that you'll continue to go and keep building the business that you want to build, to be the change that you want to be. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.